How's it going, everybody? It's me, Jim. I'm here with another episode of Team Doctor, everyone's favorite YouTube series, wherein I take a look at user-submitted teams. And guess what? I provide medical diagnosis to the team creator. I provide my thoughts and feelings regarding the team's health, and I try to bring it to a healthy equilibrium by making changes to it. Thank you. Today's submission is from Tier 2 patron Jernau, which is spelt like this. I don't know if that's how you pronounce that. It sounds French. Thank you for the submission and for the support. If you guys want to submit a team to the series, take a look at my Patreon link in the description for information. Now, this right here was described to me by Jernau as a cross between Superman and Stall. We've got a pretty standard Superman core with these 5 mons right here: Blissey, Skarm, Gengar, Flygon, Zapdos. If you guys don't know, Superman is a archetype or team style that aims to ignore spikes as much as possible by stacking flying types and levitate users, such as these 4. And you want to have the majority of your team be spike immune, so at least 4, sometimes even 5 or 6 Pokemon completely immune to spikes. And Blissey is a common teammate on these squads. Even though it is weak to spikes, it can still function very well against us as a special wall and cover common poor matchups such as Starmie and Moltres. Stuff like that can give you problems if you're just running flying mons, you can have a pretty poor defensive core. Blissey often rounds it out. Other common team members you see here that aren't flying are Wish, Protect, Jirachi to give yourself a bit of a defensive backbone and support your team with some Wish healing. You often see Tyranitar here to create sand, and that enhances your Spikes TSS game plan with the Skarm and the Gengar, able to create spikes and spin block, making sand is high impact. So yeah, this team at a glance looks solid as a Superman thing. We've got these 5 are very common. But the problem is there's a bit of a lack of direction here. On one hand, we're doing a very defensive thing with the Rest Talk Zap, the Blissey that is Carmine. That's kind of it may look like an aggressive set, but really it's a win condition you have to set up for. And it requires a bit more support than I think this team provides as well. Usually a Blissey on this kind of squad would be something like this with Wish to support the teammates. Usually you would see a Gengar with a Will-O-Wisp, helps a bit versus Snorlax. Generally good on the game plan, and like the Flygon is pretty slow and exploitable, and Suicune is the odd one out big time. Suicune is famously spikes weak, especially these more defensive passive sets really want spin support, or they're going to get worn down by spikes and sand very quickly. So this is kind of the problem, is that Suicune is the antithesis of a Superman. Did I use that word correctly? It's the complete opposite of what you want on Superman. It is spikes weak. It requires a lot of support from teammates that this team isn't providing. So there's 2 directions you could go with for a squad like this. And there's the obvious direction, which is make this Suicune into a Moltres. That makes you more solid versus Metagross. Gives you 1 extra thing versus Metagross. Metagross can be problematic for Superman teams. When you lean too much on Skarm, Metagross can have Mag as a partner or just wear down the Skarm too much. And the only other steel resist would be Zapdos, which has another job at being a little bit of a special wall plus spike shuffling, helping versus Bliss by resting up and stuff like that. You don't really want it to get worn down by mashes either. Moltres can take the pressure off Skarm a little bit for the Metagross matchup. And Blissey with Wish. I don't like this spread. I like to just go max special attack and then chuck the 4 in speed. This is probably what you're going to run on a Superman squad if you're running Blissey. The other direction you go is like aromatherapy maybe, but probably not here. I think Wish The Zapdos doesn't really need Aroma support when it has Talk. It's kind of self-sufficient in that way. But this is like a very standard-looking Superman squad. Nothing special about it. So I actually went in a different direction for this video. And I leaned more into the Suicune idea. And here's what I ended up with. I replaced... So we'll take a look at the changes I made. We cut the Flygon and the Gengar. And the Suicune stays as a Suicune, of course. This was actually a bold Suicune with Torque. And I was running this Blissey set. Topsy-turvy, what the... And I chucked in a Dugtrio and a Claydol. Instead of doing the Superman plan, we do a Claydol. Which, Claydol is basically Superman in one Pokemon. It's immune to spikes, and it removes the spikes with Rapid Spin. It's very good support for Blissey and Suicune. And I also changed this Zapdos into a Metagross to help up versus Snorlax. Because Snorlax, you look at this squad with a Zapdos, the only reprieve we have against Snorlax is Skarmory, which can get Magneton trapped. Snorlax and Magneton, very common synergy there. And, you know, Snorlax can also wear it down with like Focus Punch or Curse Boom, can eliminate it for teammates. You don't want to lean too hard on Skarmory. You want other options versus Snorlax, so I think a Metagross fits here just fine. Metagross also helps the team versus Aerodactyl, which could be a problem. If you look at the team with a Zapdos once again. We don't really have a rock resist except for Claydol. And Suicune helps, but with Sand and Spikes, it's going to have trouble. Scarm is good, but this is a Peck Scarm, which I think we kind of need because the team is a bit weak against fighting types. You want the Peck to not get Focus Punched. You want to be able to directly hit something like Breloom and Heracross, not lean on Dug too much to eliminate those guys. So I think a Metagross provides a lot here. It's a rock resist. It helps a little bit versus Tyranitar. We do have the Dug versus Tyranitar, but Metagross helps. And yeah, it takes pressure off other things. Helps versus Snorlax and Aerodactyl. So here's the squad. And I went a little bit experimental with this one, I have to admit. I went in a strange direction. First weird thing you're going to notice is the fact that I have put Rain Dance on Metagross instead of the usual Protect. This could be wrong. I could be up my own rear end with this one. Bit of an egotism. But I think that Weather Clear is really cool with Suicune and Blissey. They really appreciate Weather Clear. So, and I was like, do we really need Protect when we've got Dug, we've got Protect on Skarm, plus Meta is a rock resist. We're solid enough versus Aerodactyl, I think. We don't really need the Chip Heal versus like Tar. And yeah, I don't think we really need Protect that badly, and I think we actually get a lot out of the Weather Clear. Because these guys hate Sandstorm. And we have a reliable way to eliminate Tyranitar with Dug, so that's an extra synergy. We have the guaranteed Tar Trap. And look, a lot of people have strong opinions about Claydol sets. Before I click on this Claydol and reveal the set, hear me out. Okay, this is not a this is not a standard Claydol by any means. However, we're running Talk Suicune. This Suicune does not actually check Salamence as a Bulky Water probably could. The only other reprieve we have against Salamence is this Blissey with Ice Beam. Not very reliable. So I feel like we need Ice Beam elsewhere. With probably on Claydol. Not only is it unexpected, it fills the gap of needing to check Salamence. Plus we have Dug support, so we don't need Earthquake as much. We have Dug to eliminate Tar and Metagross. We have Skarmory, Suicune, and my own Metagross for enemy Metagross if it's still a problem. I think that we're solid enough versus Tyranitar and Metagross to not really need Earthquake. We have Toxic Blissey to help his enemy Blissey. We don't really need Claydol to be able to Earthquake Blissey. And then I'm running Refresh Once again, I don't think we need... You know, the standard is Explosion and then Earthquake here. This is the standard Claydol set. But this is my sick twisted gym doll. I think that the priority of this Claydol is just trying to 1v1 Skarmory. And also 1v1 Gengar. We can run special attack investment to help versus Gengar a lot. And the plus nature with the bulk helps a lot. I don't think we need Boom as much on this team. This is a more defensively based team. I think that Refresh provides more than Boom on this squad. The ability to 1v1 a Toxic Skarm. You can even do well against Peck Skarm because you have Ice Beam. You can just keep Ice Beaming them. It does about 20% to Skarm. And it has a freeze chance, so that's pretty nice. And yeah. Peck Skarm has other problems too. It can't... Like, this Blissey punishes Skarm with T-Bolt. Another thing is that we don't really need Toss as much when we're running Dug. Because Dug is a really nice option versus Jirachi and Raikou. So, Blissey doesn't need Toss as much to enable to check Rachi and Raikou as much. Yeah, so this team is a little bit experimental. I will admit that it perhaps could use some tweaks. I don't know yet, but in my testing, I feel like it's pretty alright. And yeah, it's basically like a weird stall team with the Suicune Wincon. I was using Bold for these games on this Crocoon, but you could also run the Modest set, and that would probably also be fine. That helps you pressure Skarm a lot more. If you hit the Torque Surf into Skarm, that really helps. Alright, let's see the team in action. In this game, I was not using the final version of the team. I was using Calm Mind on Blissey still over Toxic. I was using this, but I decided Toxic is better because we're too weak versus enemy Bliss. So we want this status to be able to force out natural cure mons like enemy Bliss. That's the big thing, because otherwise Bliss is a problem. Like Toxic Bliss just kind of pressures the team a bit too much. So C-Town with a Metacam lead. And that's band damage because this is a Bold Suicune, so we have to almost lose Suicune here, but we get a lucky crit. But C-Town is able to clean it up with Dug anyway. This allows Skarmory in for a brief moment. I roar out the Celebi right there, and in comes Claydol. And Skarm can kind of 1v1 Claydol with Peck. So I just chip down the Claydol a little bit and end up making a spike. This is a problem that this team's Claydol can face as well against Peck Skarm, but we have other teammates to support it as well. And against the Toxic Skarm, which is actually quite a common set. I know Peck is popular too, but so is Toxic. You just straight up win that 1v1. Now, enemy Jirachi can cause problems because we have to scout their set. Something like a sub-CM Jirachi can get a lot of surprise value. You just got to be very, very careful versus Jirachi. It can be problematic. You got to be intelligent when scouting the set and make use of Dug, make use of like Metagross can be used, Blissey can be used. Just be careful against it. And it looks like it's a CM Jirachi. I get a lucky Roar off. That was a bit dangerous. We didn't... Fire Punch suggests it could be defensive Jirachi. That's a bit dangerous. On my end, I get more spikes up. Perhaps foolish of me. I took a lot from that Surf, but I do want to pressure the Jirachi and stuff. Plus this Celebi can be pressured into Dug range. And if this Claydol takes a turn to spin, I get more Peck Chip. And I get dug in on the Jirachi this time. And it's a kill because it was Calm Mind, so it doesn't have as much bulk. And if it's Calm Mind, you know that it can't have Body Slam, so it would need Ice Punch and enough attack investment, special attack investment to kill, which this one didn't have. It would also need to be, even if it was Ice Punch and it killed you, the Dug Chip is often enough, because then you can get something like Metagross or Blissey in and just do that last little bit of damage while threatening everything else. So that's no worries. Scarm enters the picture here. This can be the problem with Scarm being the sole raw user on a team. I live the surf, holding on for dear life here. This is a game where the Carmine Blissey did come in handy, but I still don't think that the Carmine Blissey is the play, purely because you want to be solid versus enemy Blissey. This was just a good matchup for it. I can heal up, of course. Let's speed this one up. I'm Calm Minding up, and having Calm Mind forces the issue versus the Suicune. I win that 1v1. The Ice Beam actually helps versus enemy Claydol. That's kind of a cool thing. C-Town with Shadow Ball Claydol, which also hits me, but yeah, a lot of Claydols get hit by Ice Beam. I mean, they might just switch out, but sometimes they stay in. And I sack Scarm to get my Dug in for the trap on this Celebi. And that secures the game right there, that Ice Beam. I think that even without Calm Mind Bliss, I could have won just with Metagross Explosion, could finish off the Suicune at the end. There was probably a way to do it. This is kind of a... That was a good example of Calm Mind Bliss being pretty good in an end game, but yeah, like I said, I don't think the team can afford it regardless. Here's another one against a Main Chan, who is running a Jirachi lead and an interesting team. I go for a T-Bolt in the face of the Melodic. It's often a good blind click to go for a T-Bolt. Sometimes Scarms will try to come in on Toxic. Or even T-Wave. They sometimes don't care about T-Wave, just want to come in and make spikes against you, thinking that you can't touch him very well. But yeah, T-Bolt deals really good chip to Scarm. It would also deal with the Melodic staying and clicking Toxic. That could be a threat. So, and yeah, the T-Bolt Bliss is sort of just clicking moves over and over. I got 2 crits randomly. The crit on Jirachi wasn't that impactful. That's low damage, but the crit on Tar was pretty good. But then he got a crit back, so a bit of comeuppance. I can't complain about that one. And in comes Melodic, and I figure my Suicune can 1v1 Melodic by just clicking Calm Mind. Force a Scarm in. I was expecting a Toxic there, actually, but just went to Scarm. I go for the Surf. The Melodic can still come in and Toxic, forcing my rest. And here's another example of the team having pretty nice options to pressure Scarm, because we have the Sleep Talk Suicune with 2 boosts. So you got Sleep Talk. It's a 1 in 3 chance to surf. So the Scarm coming in and having to roar you out, which is the most common phaser that comes in and tries to punish a sleeping Suicune, has to chance 2 1 in 3s, which is pretty good odds to smack the Scarm with a huge surf. And it can't make progress while you're doing this. It has to click roar. It can't click spikes or anything. So I just got a huge 68% surf off. And I got a Claydol now. So this Claydol set is a lot better when the Scarm is chipped like this, because you could just directly threaten to kill them. Instead of just threatening to spin away their spikes, you can threaten to end their entire career. So that's... I think this Claydol set does synergize a little bit with all these things that pressure Scarm, because once the Scarm's chipped, it's less effective in the 1v1. And Scam is chip healing a little bit, but we're threatening it out. Bolt Beam Bliss remains such an epic set. It's just so threatening. And I go Metagross this time. I was tempted to go Doug, but I didn't pull the trigger on that. And a Scam Wish up was allowed. But folks, bit of a tip from Jim. If they're running Whirlwind, it means they cannot run Drill Peck. Drill Peck and Whirlwind are incompatible, so I therefore know that this particular Scam doesn't have Drill Peck and therefore can't win the 1v1 versus Claydol, so I can just safely come in here and spin and just Ice Beam over and over. That's why you should always run Raw on Skarmory to disguise your set, because if you run Whirlwind, they know that you don't have Drill Peck. And, you know, as is going to be the case with this team, this game turns out to be a bit boring. We're just seeing defensive switches over and over, slowly making progress. My Claydol just... And yeah, there's a freeze. It's eventually going to happen with all their Ice Beams, especially in this position where there's no Ghost type, there's no Peck. That's just a completely victorious 1v1. I'll go for an Ice Beam there in case Claydol came in. And right here I use Rain Dance. So this is going to force Tar back in if he wants to cut out my chip heal. Probably the highest impact thing I could have done there. Because it attacked, achieved nothing. On the switch to Scam that was just going to heal back anyway. And Main Chan is just going to give up the Scam here. Almost. I went for an Ice Beam that time because it finishes off Scam as well and covers Claydol. Kind of a nice play there, going to Melodic, actually. And here's the thing with these defensive teams, like every time this guy's going to Jirachi, he's risking a T-Bolt Para every single time, so that's the good thing here. So my Doug can force Jirachi to stay in, trapping it, not able to wish up anything. Which is nice. And it's kind of dangerous here to go for this Earthquake as Doug, so I switch out because Jirachi has Body Slam, which can paralyze Doug and then kill it afterwards. So you don't want to go for that unless you're in a desperate situation. But I actually get paralyzed on Metagross, and getting paralyzed is advantageous. It prevents me from getting burned. So this is a good line versus Wishrachi, I think, is getting paralyzed on purpose on your Metagross, so you're immune to burn. And then you 1v1 this Jirachi completely. You're forcing it out. You threaten to 2-hit it with Earthquake. And you have a Doug in the back, so you're pressuring Jirachi a lot, like that. Yeah. Main Chan with a desperate attempt to wish up Scam and just try to thaw out. I get more Thunderbolts off. And it's a Punch Gar. I actually expected a Wisp there, but Hypnosis, same thing. I'm immune to that. And this endgame is pretty much won. This is one turn where he could have made something happen. I just go to Doug right here. Because my Metagross is paralyzed. I don't love going there. And I doubt he's going to click Earthquake into the Doug. If he does, I get like Scam in or something. So that's fine. I just go Doug to try and preempt the dance. And Doug outspeeds Tyranitar after a Dragon Dance. So that's a kill. We just click buttons versus this Gengar. And it's over. That was a weird one, but a good showcase of the Bolt Beam Bliss going crazy. The Claydol just 1v1ing a Scam permanently. That can happen sometimes. Another game versus Yui HTT. And I go for it. I do it again. I go for the dry the blind T-Bolt. Because often a Scarm comes in here. And look at that, it's a Scarm. Especially when I'm suggesting I want to click Toxic and I'm Toxic myself. The Scarm would come in, waste my turn, and then chip me further. So, it's something to note, folks. And in comes Lamo Claydol. And it gets a freeze instantly. I am great at Pokemon. This one might have been more dubious, the 1v1 versus the Claydol. Scarm versus Claydol. Because there's likely a Gengar here, based on this revealed. We've got big 4 thus far. It's probably Gengar. But yeah, our Claydol is quite good versus Gengar with the special attack, investment, and Psychic. And it was actually a Curse Swampert. Which turned out to be a little bit of a problem. It was applying a bit of pressure. I roar it out. And there's a Zapdos. And it's a Jill Zapdos, so calls out my Protect right there. This is the nice thing though about Claydol. It's a nice mid-ground versus Zapdos. I was afraid of like... I don't think that this team would have a Heracross. That's the thing. We get a nice Ice Beam. Chip the Zapdos a little bit. I go Blissey this time. He was happy to chip Claydol, of course, because that would support the team by preventing me from being able to spin. But the Scarm is, of course, frozen, so I don't know if I love that line of play. But that's neither here nor there. There's many moving parts going on. Here comes Cursepert once again. This is what you can do here if they're running Hydro Pump. I actually think you should run Surf on this set, but because Hydro Pump has really low PP, and I can pressure stall it. So I kind of make a misplay here, actually. I surf down this Swampert with one Carmine, and then I go for the Rest Torx, which was kind of stupid. I don't really know why I was doing that. Misplay by me. I think the play is to just surf this Swampert further. I thought somehow I might win by pressure stalling Earthquakes, but it's not going to work like that. He's doing too much damage. So I am forced to take a pump, but he didn't go for a pump. He just went for a switch to Blissey. I create a Spike here because I think that this Swampert is problematic, so I just want to pressure it with a Spike. And my Suicune is like a sitting duck now. It's asleep, and I wasted a turn sleep talking, so it's never waking up, basically. All I can do is go for a Hail Mary sleep talk later. And it's beat up Charizard, so I go to Claydol. This is quite a desperate situation for Jim, folks. And I tried to bluff Rock Slide to force it out, and then Earthquake incoming Swampert, but he just went to Scarm. That was a good mid-ground. It's frozen anyway. Use it to check what I do. Maybe now he suspects that I'm not running. And yeah, he just gets a free switch back into Zard because I'm locked into EQ. I try to go Suicune. Get a Desperation Sleep Talk off. But we didn't roll Surf. And we just die. So I'm forced to take this beat up. It's at least only 5 hits because the Skarmory's frozen, so it doesn't count the Skarmory's hit. And we do live it and T-Bolt the Zard for the kill. And right here, in comes Swampert. I take my opportunity to heal up. And I even Toxic the Swampert. I'm just that afraid of it, folks. I soft-boiled again. And Swampert went for the pump that time, predicting my Skarmory. So that right there saved my life. This little mix-up moment. And then in comes Skarm this time on the Earthquake. So we now have a healthy Blissey. Crisis averted versus the Swampert. I can just go straight to Blissey and heal up. Finish off the Swampert. Get punched, whatever. And I just Ice Beam here. We take out the Scum. This Scum being frozen was a big deal. Would have been a different game. Although I think that my Claydol does probably 1v1 this Scum. I don't know if it's Peck Scum. Peck Scum might be overkill when you're running Zard and Zap. Not sure. Still popular anyway. Like, it's just good. You might still need the extra option versus fighters on this squad. I'm not sure. And then Doug finishes the job there. So that one looked dire. There was problems, but we were able to maneuver out of it with a bit of good luck with that freeze. I do wonder how it would have played out if I had to 1v1 the Scar more normally rather than just getting lucky. But that's what can happen when you're running Ice Beam. You just get random freezes, especially it's so spammable on Claydol in that position. So that can happen. And the final replay I've got here is against Tidal Flow. There's a case to be made for leading Blissey on this team to prevent Zap Dug stuff, but I think the fact that we've got the Claydol as a mid-ground, like right here, is nice. And I like Suicune's ability to scare turn 1 Salamence out and also hit turn 1 Tyranitar. So I enjoy that. So I think Suicune is the best lead on the team for that reason. And in comes Doug, but the Doug is not EV to deliver Blissey Modest Ice Beam, so it goes down. We go Suicune. And here's what you can do against Leech Seed Celebes, is just farm them, because they're very passive, they don't do a lot, they're just chipping you very, very slyly with Leech Seed. And there's no mag here. A mag is really unlikely with Doug as well, so I was like, yeah, this is just a free spike. And making that spike is huge. That's just permanent progress, of course. Go to Claydol. And this was a weird one because I was like, this Claydol ended up achieving a lot. But I was just happy to sack it because I don't really need Claydol in this matchup. I'm just using it as like a special wall against Zapdos. And I was, yeah, we froze this Starmie. This Starmie could never get a hit off of this Claydol. It's kind of funny, but I was totally happy to just sack it at any moment. We use Suicune. Suicune is often what you use against Swampert. It's really nice against Swampert. Continue to use Claydol here. And I get another freeze, like... I just freeze this is a lot luckier than it looks because I don't think that this guy can actually break through my defensive core. Like this Swampert, I just go Suicune. This Tyranitar, I've got a Doug, I've got a Scarm. Celebi gets farmed by Scarm completely. I've also got a Metagross, true. I just go to Metagross versus the Tar. Go Claydol again. And it rapid spins in my face. And then I dodge a Hydro Pump. Like I said, I'm just happy to sack this Claydol and get Blissey in to heal it up. Because going straight to Blissey could be dangerous. Versus a Zap, it could crit me, it could para me. Even Starmie could crit me or freeze me or hacks me somehow. So I want to sack Claydol to allow Blissey in for the guaranteed heal. But this Claydol just refuses to die. I've forced out Starmie somehow and chipped back up to 70%. Look, not sure. We get the KO on the Tar there. I go Claydol again, aiming to sacrifice myself, but actually chip healing perfectly out of range of Hydro Pump and then finishing off Starmie with the Psychic plus Sand like an absolute hero. Claydol literally checking Starmie with a resisted Psychic getting through a Starmie. I don't know how this has happened. And then finally we get Blissey. And then, oh no, our luck starts to turn sour a little bit. I go for a heal. And then... This might have been a bit dangerous. Maybe I should have sacked something to get Blissey back in and try for another attempt. But I just went for the heal while I could. So then I go for a different game plan. And this is an example of Rain Dance being useful. So I go to Scarm and I sack it. Because we don't need Scarm anymore. And I go Metagross and I click Rain Dance. I'm suggesting Boom there. I'm suggesting, oh, I'm going to Boom your Zapdos. And then you can't get through Blissey anymore. Or you can't get through Suicune anymore. But actually, I go for the Rain Dance. He tries to take the Boom on Swampert. And I just sit and Earthquake this guy. And click buttons. And get dug in on the Celebi healing. Eliminate it. Sacrifice myself. And the Rain Dance allowed me a single chip heal, which was enough to be out of range of Thunderbolt, which did about 21. So I get my heal off. Yeah, it does 20 there. I cure the para. Let's just sack Suicune, it's useless. And GG. That was a weird one. I don't think this team is very good, actually. It's like a weird... I think the Celebi gets too farmed. But that was a funny replay. I thought I'd share it. I don't know if these replays were great examples. There was one big 5 squad in there. There was some fellow stall squads, like Jirachi, Wishirachi stuff. Plus Doug stuff. And I think this team has been able to hold its own pretty well. I've been testing it for the past few hours. Making alterations. And I think it's pretty good. So, yeah, the team could definitely be iterated on further. There's more you could do. But I think it's cool. You might want to run Modest Suicune to just apply a bit more pressure for Scarm. And whatever. But yeah, I think it's fun. I like the Claydol and the Metagross sets here. Hopefully you enjoyed this one, Jernau. And like I said, you can also just modify your previous team to be a pretty simple Superman squad. If you want to run that, just replace, just do the Molt over Suicune, run a Wish Blissey. And probably Wisp on Gengar, and then that's also fine. But yeah, I want to do something a bit more interesting. A bit more outside the box. I think I ended up with something pretty cool. You said something about... it's hard to cover every relevant metagame thread when you're building defensive teams. I think that what helps there is Doug. Doug really helps you handle a lot of stuff like Tar, finish off miscellaneous things, take out important walls like Jirachi, Metagross, Blissey sometimes. You can beat it up sometimes or whatever. Yeah, Doug really enhances these kinds of stall teams built around Suicune. And yeah, we cover Snorlax with Metagross. He said he was struggling both Snorlax. Metagross helps in that department. We don't have the solid tar check of Swampwood or Flygon, but we've got a plan against Tyranitar that is malleable, because the Doug beats like +1 tars. The Metagross can check tar in a pinch. We've got the Suicune and the Scarm to help a little bit as well. Thank you for watching, folks. Stay tuned for some more content in the future. I've got another Team Doctor coming out. Gen 9's coming. I'm going to be playing that on day 1. Whenever that comes to Showdown. I'm going to chuck the new Miss Magius on a team, and I'm going to terrestrialize, and I'm going to kill everything. And it's going to be epic as well. I wonder if you can terrestrialize when you have a Scarf. That sounds OP, man. How does anyone beat that? That meta's going to come down to Misdreavus speed ties, I'm telling you right now. Anyway, whatever. Oh, I just thought of something. Misdreavus can terrestrialize Dark type and then resist enemy Misdreavus and kill it. I'm smart. I just solved Gen 9. It's not even out yet. Alright, whatever. Goodbye.